there is this sort of trend that I've noticed that in general, it seems like women really like male leadership. They're attracted to it. They want a man who's a leader, but they are just not prepared to be followers. And that just, you cannot have a leader without somebody who's willing to be a follower. Both of you can't be leaders. Only one person can be a leader. Nothing gets done in a democracy. Nothing gets done by committee. So I just see these women, it's like almost on a biological evolutionary level, they're attracted to men who are dominant masculine leaders. But like in the programming, they fight against it and don't want to be followers. So I want a leader, but I don't want to follow. I'm attracted to this, but I'm also gonna question and be quarrelsome and not let you lead, but I'm attracted to it, but I'm still not gonna let you lead, but I'm attracted to it. Does that make sense?
And Andrew, there goes an actual nature versus nurture argument. Because the natural aspect is they are attracted to it, but you have feminism. We have a culture like in the West that tells women that they don't have to listen to men, that they don't have to do certain things in relationships, and then it's reinforced all throughout the media, social media.
Well, let me argue with you a little bit here, Q.
Yeah.
And ask you, if it's a nature versus nurture argument, how do you know that the nature isn't just to be rebellious?
Because men are naturally attracted to agreeable women, and agreeable women are typically the ones who have the better relationships.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like that in modernity.
Yeah.
It seems like in modernity, most women are quarrelsome, and men are still endlessly pursuing them.
Yeah, in the West, because it's been infiltrated by feminist values and principles.
Yeah, but isn't feminism just another extension of evolution? So didn't we evolve to be feminists? Just like all social structures are part of evolution as part of the selective process, right?
Possibly. But it isn't.
I've always found this to be a massive hole in the argument from the evolutionary purview.
Yeah,
so if the argument is, but feminism has indoctrinated women into being quarrelsome, then you're actually saying that men in the West have evolved to follow feminism, and so have women, because that would be the natural order of selection, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but it's bigger than the West. So when I say that in general, I mean there's still agreeable women in other cultures. There's still women who subscribe to listening to their men and being submissive in other cultures. So of course we have what I would call an anomaly here in the West, and evolution.
But feminism's winning.
Huh?
Even in other cultures, feminism's winning.
You think so?
Yeah, name a culture it's not winning in.
The cultures that is not prevalent in.
Where?
Such as
Where
the Middle
those?
East. Such as the Middle East.
No, it's winning all over the Middle East. It's winning in Iran, where transgenderism's allowed.
It's not winning in Afghanistan.
It's winning in Afghanistan, where it's been liberated by the West. It's winning everywhere in the Middle East. In fact, the number one complaint I hear from Muslims is that feminism has not stopped at the West, but is now going through the Middle East like crazy, and they're doing everything they can to kind of push back against it, but they're still having to face off with it. So the question
when you
then
say
becomes like, is this the natural evolutionary order?
Well, when you say, it's not necessarily the evolutionary order. It's more of a fact that we just like agreeable women, and agreeable women, the more agreeable a woman is, the more likely the relationship is to work. So it's not a black and white thing. It's a gray area. So it's a gradation in terms of what relationships may function better than other relationships based on the level of agreeableness in the women that's in those relationships. When you speaking about it, you're making it more like a black and white thing. And evolution isn't necessarily about what's best, it's just about what's most adaptable. So if the West is indeed feminist, if feminism is
adapted to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I'm saying,
but if they've adapted to it, then that would be part of their evolutionary cycle.
But then that would just mean that we would ultimately end up just becoming a feminist society.
We have become a feminist society.
No, I'm saying the argument you're making is more so from a moralistic perspective, and I'm saying evolution.
Well, I don't believe in evolution. I don't even think it's a thing, right? It's nonsensical to me because of natural selection being the mechanism. But
well, that's not
I'm
the only
willing to argue within the evolutionary.
Yeah, that's not the only mechanism of evolution. There's more than that. It's not natural selection that would be the strong.
Without natural selection, evolution doesn't work.
Yes, it does, because of genetic drift and genetic
Explain
mutations.
how it would work. That's all natural selection. Genetics.
No,
is
it's
natural
it's
selection.
not. No, it's not, Andrew.
How is it? It's unnatural selection.
No, it's not, because random mutations happen just randomly within populations.
That would be natural.
That's not selection.
That is selection.
No, it's only selection
It's
when
selecting for the mutated gene.
it's selecting for the mutated gene, but you have to mate in order to pass it on.
Yeah, but if you're mating and
so if
passing on the mutated genes, then that's natural. Therefore, it's natural selection.
No.
How? What do you mean no? How could it not be?
I just told you, if it's not being selected for sexually, then it's not natural selection.
Yeah, but if people with these mutated genes are having sex and the mutated genes are continuing, then that would be natural selection.
Yes,
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
But things happen. Genes get eliminated. Genes are not selected for, so it's just kind of a random thing.
Yeah, but that's all natural selection again.
That's one mechanism. That's one mechanism of like
selection
six.
is the key component to evolution, the gradual change of an entirety of a species over time. That is evolution.
Combined with
you can have microevolution as well. I understand that as well. But the gradual progression of an entire species over time is the mechanism for this has to be natural. So it can't be anything else. What else could it be?
No, you're just choosing to clump them together. They're separate mechanisms. Genetic drift
what is the other mechanism?
Genetic drift is its own mechanism. Genetic mutations are their own mechanism.
How do those spread?
Natural selection are their own mechanisms.
How do those mutations spread?
In response to the environment.
Okay, so in response to the environment, those mutations spread, and then when you have sexual intercourse with somebody, that mutation continues.
Yes, but you added the sexual selection.
Correct?
You added the sexual selection.
But now it's been selected for. That's the whole point.
Yes,
that's natural selection. Now it's been selected for.
Yeah, if you say that, but that's not always the case. That's you.
I'm not saying it's always the case, but if it's not the case, that's also natural selection.
No.
So if they don't have sex, if there's no sex and the gene dies, that has been selected out. If they do have sex and the gene is there, then that has been selected in, right?
No, that's not the only way. I keep telling you that. You keep saying the same thing, and I'm telling you that's not the only way. That's not the only way it works. It doesn't have to be selected for.
I'm pretty sure that's the only way it can work.
No, it's not.
Otherwise, how does the gene continue if it's not selected for?
You don't know the way.
What?
Because, as I said, genetic mutations and genetic drifts, they're not always selected for, but they become a part of evolution just because they're mechanisms that happen randomly by chance. Natural selection is its own mechanism. If it was the same thing as those, they wouldn't be considered different mechanisms. It would be called natural selection. It wouldn't be called genetic drift or genetic mutation.
I don't actually understand this argument, and maybe you can help me bridge the gap here. Let us assume that there's a mutation which occurs inside of a species, which is very small, right? This is a random mutation which happens, right? Now, if this mutation, if nobody with the mutation breeds, you agree with me that this gene is selected out, correct? Or this mutation is selected now out, right?
Possibly.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't understand. How could it be selected in if the genes which cause the mutation do not pass genetically to the next generation? How?
Because genes are also affected in utero by the environment. So a woman can be pregnant or an animal can be pregnant and a whole new gene happens. There's a gene modification in the DNA.
I agree. But let's say that mutation happens and then there's no more reproduction past that. What happens to that gene?
Depends on the gene, honestly.
How could a gene?
Wait. Hold up, because there's pseudogenes. There's genes that exist that we still have that don't even work for what they were selected for. So it just could become an inactive gene.
Yeah, but those genes couldn't exist absent the reproduction.
Or mutation. You
yeah,
still
but
saying
the mutation could not spread absent reproduction.
Yes,
so
it
if you
can.
Have a mutation
Yes, it
in
can.
a small,
yes,
so,
it can.
So you're saying, wait, so you're saying that an entire species can have a random mutation happen to the entirety of the species?
But look, that's okay. Here's where
I'm asking you directly: can a species have a random mutation absent reproduction, which happens to the entire species?
No, because it's a
No,
yeah, because
of course
wait,
not.
wait,
It's absurd.
because
it's absurd.
because it's a gradual process. It wouldn't happen like that. It wouldn't happen.
Right, exactly, because it's being selected for or not selected for.
It would be random. It would just be random. It would occur randomly. It wouldn't happen in a specific population like that, just suddenly. It would be over. It would be
have
over
to be
millions of
gradual
years.
and selected for, and without reproduction, it could not be selected for, and therefore it could not continue. There's no way around that. Absent reproduction, the gene dies. There's no fucking way around that.
Yes,
I don't
there
care
is.
if it's a plant. I don't care if it's an ant.
Yes,
I don't
there
care
is.
what it is. Well, how does the gene reproduce? How does it reproduce?
We're talking about mutations and drifts.
Yeah, okay.
It's only because you're stuck on natural selection, and that's how you're framing it. You're
These
choosing to frame it
things
as
can't
natural
operate outside of purview of natural selection. They can't. It's not possible. These things are being selected or not selected for.
It's not impossible. There's plenty of evidence that shows that it actually can.
Okay.
I can sing you some studies if you want.
When an entire species gets a mutated gene, which spreads throughout the species without reproduction.
Could you repeat it for me, bro?
Yeah. Can you tell me, give me a single example of a mutated gene which spreads throughout an entire species absent reproduction?
Absent reproduction. An entire gene that spreads throughout a species absent reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
How about genes that occur specifically in a population absent reproduction, such as
what?
Such as the lactase gene.
Okay, and could that gene continue absent reproduction?
It could continue absent reproduction
How?
by gene mutation.
Yeah, but you're just saying that there could be another mutation which is like this mutation.
What about blue eyes?
So like no matter what, all of this is going to come back. All of this is going to come back to the gene itself, or whatever the mutation is in the gene, cannot continue absent reproduction of the people with those genes. That is natural selection. The idea here is that this gene, whatever the mutation is being selected for because that is what's being reproduced. This is always the center point for the idea of evolution.
I got to give Q the final word on this, and then I got to move it on.
But I mean, it's simply put, if it was natural selection, then it would be classified as natural selection. It's not natural selection. You're just
okay. Well, let me ask
one
more question.
Andrew, I got that.
Real quick. It's super quick. If the entirety of the world was nuked tomorrow, we all nuked each other out of existence, okay, with nuclear bombs.
Mm-hmm.
That is natural selection, correct?
If we all nuked each other?
Yes.
Why would that be classified as natural selection if we chose to nuke each other?
What else could it be?
Why would that be?
Event?
Because evolution meant that we built nukes and that we evolved towards nuking each other off of planet Earth. That's what was selected for. The genes and everything else that led to us building the nukes and thus nuking each other off of planet Earth, all of that led from evolution, right? We evolved to do this.
That would never happen because evolution is about reproduction and survival, so we wouldn't evolve to nuke each other.
Well, I think that you and I have a big, distinction then in what
I'm just
is
waiting
natural
for the Venn
selection.
diagrams to start popping up. Ha ha.
You should look at a book called The Revolutionary Phenotype. It was written by J.F. Gary Eppy, who makes this very argument about nukes. And he states emphatically, there's no possible way that if you were to nuke each other off planet Earth, that those weren't just simply genes which were selected for, which led to that, because that's how evolution would have to work.
Yeah, but send me the book, Andrew. Send me the book.
Yeah, it's called The Revolutionary Phenotype by J.F. Gary Eppy. I did appreciate the spirited debate. By the way, I have no problem with Q at all.
Absolutely not. I love it. I told you, I love it. That's my bro. Yeah, it's not personal.
That was good. That was great. Thank you guys. Thank you.